Q&A time. It's been a few days since we've done a dedicated one of these, answer a couple of questions in like every video, but we'll do a dedicated one right now. So, first of all, and I think this is an interesting topic to touch upon, and I can probably ramble for a little bit longer than I probably should, so I'll try and keep it concise. Why did I start on TikTok and not YouTube? Okay, so for those that don't know, I feel like I need to add context every time because different, say 2,000 people watch a video that I upload here, it could be a different 2,000 people each time, you never know. On TikTok, amongst my 5 different accounts, I have just shy of 1 million subscribers. It's like 950,000, something like that. To this day, my primary income and the majority of my views, they're still all on TikTok, and slowly but surely we're trying to build this account. The problem with TikTok is that followers there, they hardly even like you. It's hard to get them to move across. Like, say I do a video where I'm like, guys, go subscribe to my YouTube channel, and it gets 10,000 views. Maybe 10 people will, if I'm lucky. So for the most part, all the YouTube growth, it has to kind of be organic. So if you guys haven't already, which is apparently a lot of you according to my analytics, subscribe if you like my stuff. That'd be awesome. I want that silver play button on that wall back there. But why did I start on TikTok instead of YouTube? Well, technically, I didn't. So I have tried to do YouTube through my life many times, as most people I think my age did. I'm 26 and I grew up right in the thick of the Machinima Respawn Call of Duty era, and I was a little bit too young to participate within it. I was like 13 when like all of the guys that were making, at the end of the day, hundreds of thousands of dollars, if not millions, were just playing Call of Duty for a living. And I remember wishing that I could do that. I would pretend to do that when I was a kid. I wish that was me. I literally remember daydreaming, thinking that if I was just a few years older and I wasn't a squeaker, that I could have been doing that, because I lived and breathed Call of Duty for those 5 years or so. But alas, it was not to be. However, I did start YouTube a few times and like attempt to get somewhere and never really did. In fact, this was something that one of my form tutors at school did, which was a bit of a not nice move to make. I don't think he read the room very well in terms of like my position socially. I think he thought that it would be a cool thing to do what he did, when in reality I was picked on and it was just giving them more ammunition. He played one of my YouTube videos in form on the whiteboard to everyone. Good idea, mate. Brilliant. Thanks for that. Anyway, I ended up quitting YouTube like 3 times while I was in high school because it just never ended up working out and I was getting picked on for it. People would ask me such... Like, I managed to get monetized at one point, but I was making such low money and like people... It just wasn't... People were picking on me, say it that way. And I tell this story to try to motivate people. I said this in a video the other day. Do not quit your dreams. If you've got a dream, make it work. Because in my year at school was a guy called Nico Amalana. Some of you may know that name, I hope. My year at school, we both started YouTube at about the same time. I quit, he didn't. Look where he is now. Don't be me, be him. Don't quit, you know? Graft for a decade and success leaves clues. There are very few people who graft for a solid 10 years at something and don't end up succeeding in some way, you know? A lot of people give up. Don't be a giver-upper. Be a succeeder. Be a trier. Keep grafting. Anyway, I think I was quite an early adopter of TikTok. So I did that hour-long video the other day where I went through like my story as such, where it was locked down, I was a personal trainer, I was still working at Tesco, and I thought that the quality of fitness information on TikTok was awful and that I could do it better. And I started making videos about that, and through that was able to grow an online coaching business, and then the social media side of things ended up blowing up, and within like a year of making fitness content, I had 250,000, and then like 400,000, then like 450,000, and yeah. Basically, I was a full-grown adult, and TikTok was paying the bills. YouTube was not, or wasn't even a thought at the time, so you have to do what pays the bills, you know? And TikTok was that, and TikTok still is that. TikTok still outpaces how much I earn on the tube, although getting much closer at this point, which is pretty cool. I look forward to the day where some stranger asks me what I do for a living, and when I say I make videos for a living, and they go, oh, where'd you upload them? I can say YouTube instead of TikTok. I look forward to that. It's gonna be a satisfying day, and that day is coming, because I will graft until it does, because that's who I am now. Which leads us into this question, by the way. Do I live at home, as in with family, or do I own a home? I own a home. In fact, I have been in this house nearly 2 years to the day. I think like yesterday was the 2-year anniversary of when I moved into this house. And if any of you guys have been following me since the early fitness days, you will feel very old at that news, I'm sure, because I went through a ton of drama to get into this house. Initially, we thought it was going to be really easy because we bought this house from a 50-year-old couple who were downsizing. This is a 3-bedroom house. They had got kids that had moved house. They were moving into a 2-bedroom, new build, so there was no chain. me and my partner were moving out of parents' houses. These two 50-year-olds were moving into a house with nobody in. This should be quick. This should be easy. It wasn't. It wasn't at all. They started beating each other up and cheating on each other, and they got arrested. And then I ended up having to go to their solicitors because they just weren't doing their job, and I got kicked out. You better have subscribed by now. I want my play button. Go on, do it. Cheers. But yeah, the day that we got the keys for the house was the day that we found out we were getting the keys for the house. We literally did not know, because the amount of times we got delayed and things just weren't working. Like, our solicitor was like, oh yeah, we're done. We're just waiting on like one piece of paperwork to be sent over from their solicitor. And I was like, okay. That was like a Monday. Friday rolls around, they still ain't done it. I'm like, well, why haven't they done it? And I knew where their solicitor was because it was behind the Tesco that I used to work at. So I'm like, I'm going in. I'm going to go in and be like, why haven't you sent them? If it's just a case of sending something, send it and then we're done. And then we can move into our house. Because I wanted to move into my house. Because I was like 23 and I wanted to get out of my mum's house. And she really wanted me to get out too. Because rent was going up. And she didn't want to keep paying rent on the house. And then my nan died. And my mum moved into her flat as well, which was a little bit strange. But yeah. In the end, when we got into this house, we ended up speaking to the neighbours. Because one of the neighbours on one side of us, they're about our age. They're like 28 or so. And I was like, what happened? And they were like, we hoped you'd know. And I was like, oh, great. From what we gathered, she would repeatedly hit him and he would cheat on her, is what seems to have happened. It was not a very good, dynamic. Not at all. And she ended up, like, you know, you a lot of you guys that watch me are on the older side on here, so you probably do know. You know how you write into the fittings and fixtures what is going to be kept and what they're taking with them? Well, we were supposed to be keeping a washing machine and she nicked it because she wanted it because they'd broken up, and instead of moving into that new build together, they ended up separating and going in two different places each. So she nicked the washing machine that was in our fixtures and fittings, so we ended up having to pay less for the fridge that we were keeping to offset that. And then he left us a bottle of wine and a card that she stole as well. But we were like, we don't care because we're in and we're sorted, whatever. So yeah, I've had a mortgage since I was 23, which when that first left my mouth made me feel decently old, I suppose. Yeah. This is an interesting one. Have I ever dropped a game for being bad? No, sadly. I really wish I had that ability though. I've tried to do that before and I can't bring myself to do it. My brain, in the last 5 years at least, physically will not let me quit games. The good thing is that typically a game that is that bad are often not that long. A few times that I would have loved to have quit is like Dead Space 3, Dead Rising 4, what else? I briefly nearly quit Wukong, but I still managed to knuckle down and beat that before the majority of people who were bad-mouthing me in the comments were able to beat it because the trophy said so. Yeah, chat shit. Resident Evil 6, there's another example of a game that the last time I played it, I didn't want to play it. I tried to create myself a bit of a never again list that I've managed to adhere to decently well at the minute. Devil May Cry 2, there's another one. But luckily, again, a lot of these bad games are typically not very long, but Resident Evil 6 is pretty long, especially because there's technically like 4 whole campaigns. But yeah, because of the way that I tend to play through entire franchises, I often find myself struggling to skip, especially due to the fact that I record games for content now. And trust me, if I skip a game, I will never hear the end of it. The last time I did the Resident Evil games on TikTok, I did skip 6, and people were saying that I was like, you've never seen people more offended at things that don't actually concern them whatsoever until you see TikTok comments. Like, YouTube comments can be a bit of a cesspool, but TikTok comments are a cesspool 100% of the time. And like, something they often get confused about is that, say I play a game and I do 30 videos about that game, and maybe one out of those 30 videos is talking about an aspect of the game that I do not like. It could be a game that I otherwise loved. They'll then run with that and act like you hate everything, you never stop moaning, and the only thing you can say is negativity. But the problem with that is that people are generally drawn towards negativity, and usually those videos are the ones that perform better because that's just the way the human mind works, because humans are vile creatures. Sadly, we all love drama. We all love hearing people bitch and moan rather than actually hearing that they like something. It's just psychology, which, if you're ever going to get into social media, by the way, having some understanding of human psychology and how to manipulate that to your own advantage is often something worth doing. For example, it's something that I do every single day when I show Kuon and the price that says 620. It's everything that you can do within your power to garner engagement and watch time and all that sort of thing. So yeah, in the last 5 years at least, while I've been tracking the games that I've played on the gamelog, I can't think of a single time that I've started playing a game and gone, I don't like this, and stopped playing it. I usually always see it through to the end, which can be a problem in my brain, but it's the way my brain makes me do things, I do suppose. Okay, next up, it has been a while since I've done a fitness question, so let's throw one in here. What are my thoughts on intermittent fasting to lose weight? That's a pet peeve of mine. That's worse than Pacific or specific, I swear to God. I'm not a grammar Nazi, but that is loose and lose. I don't mind general public doing this because I get it, but I genuinely know personal trainers, people who are paid, people whose by definition profession, they are professionals at helping people lose weight, who will say loose. To loose something. Right, hang on. I've got a t-shirt in my hand. If I loose this, yeah? We've all seen Game of Thrones, right? Knock, draw, loose. To let something go. Yeah? We lose weight. We don't lose weight. But I see personal trainers, professionals, people whose job it is to do this, who don't know this difference, who can't distinguish it. And I think that if you're a potential client hiring a personal trainer that doesn't know how to spell the word that they do as a job, sack them before you've even hired them. That was a bit of a rant. Okay, so for those of you that don't know, intermittent fasting is effectively where for a period of every day you do not eat any calories. That's what that is. So for example, you've got 24 hours in a day, you may choose to not eat for 16 of those hours, for example. There are gurus on the internet that would have you believe that intermittent fasting is superior for weight loss versus any other method of weight loss, but it is not. The reason that intermittent fasting makes you lose weight is because typically if you only eat for a few hours every day, you are massively restricting the amount of calories you are putting in your mouth and therefore helping you create your calorie deficit and sustain it more easily. For example, I do intermittent fast, but I wouldn't say that I intermittent fast. It's just that my sleep schedule facilitates that quite easily. The reality of intermittent fasting for the majority of the population is that it's just equivalent to skipping breakfast. Say your last meal is at like 7 p.m. and maybe you have a snack at like 9 or 10 and then you don't eat until like lunch the next day. You've now gone at least 14 hours without eating. Well done, you intermittent fasted. You know what I mean? Always remember that when it comes to losing fat, the only thing that matters is that you are in a calorie deficit, that you are putting less calories in your mouth than your body requires to stay its current weight. That is how you lose weight. That is the mechanism of weight loss. Intermittent fasting is a method of achieving the mechanism of weight loss. Does that make sense? So another example of a method is keto, as in eating no carbs and only eating fats and meat, fats and protein. Does it work? Sure. Can you stick to it? Maybe. Probably not though. So the true answer here is it depends. And to be real with you, the majority of fitness questions, the answer is it depends because it's got to be nuanced to the person asking the question. For example, are you somebody that if they were to intermittent fast is more likely to binge later in the evening because of how many calories they had left and therefore go over their calories? Because intermittent fasting only works if during that window of time that you are eating, you are still eating within the amount of calories you can eat. It's not free reign to eat as many calories as you want. And a lot of people do that. They are so ravenous by the time that they are allowed to eat that they then overeat the amount of calories they're supposed to be eating and therefore do not lose weight. When calories are equated, the time of day that you eat them doesn't matter, you know? So it just depends on the person and whether or not it fits their lifestyle, whether it's something they are capable of adhering to longer term, long enough anyway to lose the weight they're trying to lose. Like I said, this is a very nuanced topic because it depends on the person. If you guys want like the application of as much of this as I can possibly do without rambling on for an hour, I did make a fat loss guide. It's about 15 quid, link in bio, or link in description, I suppose. Link in bio is what I say on TikTok. I'm a personal trainer, remember, or used to be. Losing fat is what I do. I lost 25 kilos of fat last year. I've been fat like 3 times in my life and fixed it because life got in the way. Like, for example, that whole moving in the house process, I did a lot of stress eating. I got pretty heavy then and I had to lose 25 kilos. That was great fun. For my Americans out there, or Europeans perhaps, I don't know what metric you guys use, 25 kilos is about 60 pounds. That was just last year alone, and that was between February and July. So what's that, less than half a year? In less than half a year, you can completely change who you are if you choose to. It just depends on whether or not you put the work in and make it happen. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you haven't already, do be sure to subscribe. I think I've said that 3 times in this. I've made a lot of videos tonight, so I think I've said the same thing in a few of them, so I'm not really entirely sure what I said in one and not the other. But yeah, see you later.